fans. How are you doing this evening? Hope you are well. Welcome to another edition of the FutureSox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. He is James Fox. How are you, James?
Good, sir. What's going on?
Oh, just kind of buzzing from the weekend a little bit. Had some nice left-handed pitching domination on Saturday night. So
In
that
two
was
places, yes.
in two places. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super exciting, and that was great. How's everything going with you with football? Everything good?
All good, other than the heat wave. Like now I think we have to practice at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So, yeah.
Yep.
We will not be allowed to use the turf any sooner. So,
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, that's rough. When you see the real feel temperatures like 104, not good.
And I will say, like I joke, like the turf feels awful. Like it feels like 130 when you're standing on it. Like when it's like this, the sun's pounding off of it. Like, yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. Likewise, Alec. So Alec brings up that Ramos is back in Chicago. A flurry of moves, if you will, earlier today.
Yeah.
Sammy Peralta is back. I know that everybody's that's at the top of everybody's list. But Brian Ramos is also back, so that's nice.
I'm a little bit surprised. I kind of so he's like been on a tear and probably deserves it. And you're terrible, so why not, right? But they seemed like committed to playing Vargas at third a little bit. So you got Moncada coming back. I was just kind of like, yeah, Ramos deserves it. But if they left him in Charlotte, I wouldn't have been that surprised. I think I even said like as much maybe like on Twitter in a reply to somebody like this morning. And then it was like, oh, Brian Ramos is back. So,
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm more interested in watching him play than Nick Senzel. How bad is it when you get DFA'd by this White Sox team?
When they picked him up, I was kind of just, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, why did we even bother? I mean, he has gotten all of the chances in the world in Cincinnati. And then
he went to Washington?
Yeah, exactly. And they, I mean, granted, they had a glut of outfielders and infielders that they wanted, young guys that they wanted to play. So I got that, but like
my really far-fetched conspiracy theory was that they signed Nick Senzel so they could get a deal on Nick McClain in the draft from Boris.
I mean, that's
because
possible.
Scott Boris does weird things.
My thought on that, the only theory that I had on it is that Giannis was with the Reds. And so he's known Senzel since he was the
number 2 prospect in baseball.
Yeah, when he actually had some prospects of being a halfway decent baseball player, which never ended up materializing. And you saw that in every at bat. It was just worthless.
I mean, he's done now, right? I mean, he's not. I mean, I don't know how anybody could pick him up at this point. That was
I don't know why anybody.
That was probably the end of the road, I would say, and he'll be, probably in the minors somewhere. For that's fine. But
yeah, Alec brings this up as well. Would have liked to seen Mago over Sammy Peralta, and I 100% agree with that.
I just think it's back to 40-man space, right? I mean, not that these guys aren't expendable, because we have this conversation all the time, right? Like, just dump a guy, but he's not on the 40 yet, and maybe they don't feel like putting him on it, and they don't want to carry him all off season. So it's just probably as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I've watched Sammy Peralta since I believe since he was in like at least an advanced A.
Yeah.
And he's never really done it for me to the point where I was like, I have to see this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had like decent success, but nothing crazy that makes me say, this guy has to be up, as opposed to some of the guys that I've been seeing in the bullpen for the Knights that have been putting in really good work and have done it elsewhere before they got here. I just don't understand why we keep on doing this. And it's like, yeah, it saves 40-man space, but I mean, are we really worried about Sammy Peralta at this point? Like, what's the what's the the hold up here? Like why
Well,
we're
and it could just be like, you release Chris Flexen because it's pointless, and you bring up Mago or one of the other guys, Tuki Toussaint, whoever, like
yeah, Tukey's I have to imagine Tukey's like kind of, like the weird thing about Tukey is that you could see him and he could look absolutely brilliant for a couple of innings, and then he'll have just a 4 or 5 walk inning,
mhm.
and it's just crazy. Like you see that the stuff's there. It's just the consistency is just never developed, and it's really weird and unfortunate because he does some really nasty stuff, sometimes.
Former top prospect, Tuki Toussaint. They're littered with former top prospects.
Yep. So speaking of guys that got option today, Kai Bush also sent down back to AAA.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I think some struggles. I think it's similar to what we've seen, right? Like they sent Cannon back, they sent Nastrini back, and then I think the second time Cannon came back, he was much better. Nastrini not so much, but we kind of talked off air. Like might have finally turned a corner here, figured some things out. He's looked pretty good his last few times out. So maybe it's just the same thing for Kai Bush. It's a lot more walks than like I think we were used to seeing from him.
Yeah.
That's not really the real version of him that I think they were expecting. So he'll just go to Charlotte and tinker with some stuff. And the big league team doesn't really they could start anybody in Chicago at this point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it seems to me like there is a definite adaptation period from going to the minor league baseball to going to the major league baseball when they hit AAA. To me, it seems like there seems to be like a definite adjustment period for most of these guys where they have issues commanding the baseball as soon as they get to AAA, and I mean, just to me, that's the way it seems, and I've seen it multiple times over the last year that it just seems like that is indeed a thing.
Yeah. Why would they want everything to be uniform and the same?
Yeah, I
Like
don't
it
get
just
it.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say though that it is better than when me and my kid went to down to North Carolina a few years ago, and I have a Carolina League baseball, I've got a Southern Atlantic League baseball, and then I've got Major League baseballs from Charlotte. So before, and then you had the Super Tack ball that was in
Yeah,
Double A.
the Birmingham tacky ball. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like literally, you had 4 different baseballs as you went through the minor leagues. As you know,
Yeah.
uh, as like soon ago as last year that like there was just
Mhm.
it's like what are we doing here? Well, I don't understand why they do that.
Well, and Major League Baseball had like the super bouncy ball that Eloy Jimenez benefited from the one year when he somehow hit 31 homers.
Yeah, I I don't know. We could say that about Eloy, but I mean, there's also just the fact that he hits literally everything straight into the ground, so that doesn't help things. It's hard to hit a home run when you've got like a -30-degree launch angle.
I know it's really tough. The Orioles fans have been quiet about Eloy Jimenez of late.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see what his stats are.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's about what you're expecting.
yeah, just ground balls everywhere.
Yeah, it's not good.
So this is another one of those head scratching moves that also happened today with the flurry of moves. Is that the White Sox claimed Jacob Amaya from Houston? I don't
Former
understand.
former Dodgers infield prospect that was traded to Miami that had some promise. Now he's with Houston, but he just has not hit at all at AAA. So yeah, I mean, it's a glove first infielder that's taking the place of Ramos, I guess, and you're just gonna take a look at him and see. I mean, I don't think he was ever like a top 100 guy, but he was definitely a prospect. And they're number one in the waiver claim order, so anybody they've ever had any interest in like becomes theirs pretty quickly.
Yeah. Just go ahead and bring this up. Says, I remember the late 80s Sox. They were awful as well, but Larry Himes started drafting really well, leading us to our pretty good seasons in the early 90s. Yes, it is indeed sad. And
Yeah,
you know what?
four straight first rounders that were pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I just with the picking up of old prospects thing, it's like I am all for the roster churn thing. Um, but at some point, like you're hoping that some of these guys some of the guys that you actually drafted
Mm.
start pushing through this stuff and start popping up here and not Nick Senzel's.
Yeah, I mean Jacob Amaya at least he's in Charlotte, right? He's not in Chicago, so yeah. So it's I mean, I think it'd be different if like he was in Chicago and Ramos was still in Charlotte. At least like it's like kind of the other way around. So yeah, and then what was the other? There was a pitching move too, right? That accommodated. Oh yeah, we talked Kai Bush. Yeah.
Yeah, the Kai Bush thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a 2 for 2, and then Nick Senzel out the door, basically.
Yeah, so we had this talk off air before we hopped on here. What you think Nick Nastrini is probably gonna, with the changes that he's made in his mechanics and his consistency has come back, and he's had probably like 3 straight starts where he's looked much more in command of what he's doing. Looks like a completely different guy. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come up here at some point, but with the playoffs coming up soon, we also had this talk that it's entirely possible that the White Sox, put some of these guys out in the wind to see if they can't get somebody to grab and take hold of them.
Yeah, like the last little bit of the contract for like Chris Flexen or Nicky Lopez. I mean, I think Brebbia is probably too expensive with his buyout, and he's just not good.
Yeah.
And I don't really know who else. Like they don't, I mean, you throw Gavin Sheets on waivers for somebody. I mean, it doesn't really do much for you. It's just kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know how many guys they have that anybody would even like have any real interest in at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. At this point, I'm trying to figure out like what the plan is here for Getz in these final weeks because there's not much left in this season. Like about a month, a little over a month here. What are they? They're like at 100. This is the 132nd game tonight or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, and I've talked about this in the past. I think if he could like hit a button and simulate the rest of this thing, that button would have been hit. I would imagine Chris Getz wants to get on with the manager search and the search for a director of international scouting, and you could sell some level of positivity like while the team isn't playing because that's the only you know what I mean. And then you're probably going to trade Garrett Crochet, and that's not a positive necessarily, right? But it's just the beginning of like what's next here. So I think like there's like a lot of news coming. We're just gonna have to wait for it, and this September could be absolutely brutal.
Yeah. So Vince asks, I think Sheets is a non-tender in the offseason. Think you keep Vaughn. What do you guys think? I that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should keep Vaughn, but I think they will. Sheets is a definite non-tender, though. You can't. I mean, you can't pay like ARB1 to him. He's not good at all. So
Yeah, and I don't like realistically. Like, I mean, I guess he's got service time and everything, that's been accruing. But realistically, like, I don't know what kind of raise he's going to get. What
yeah,
ridiculous
no,
pay.
yeah, I mean, as a first baseman with like a 70 something WRC plus, like you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw this out there since Jacob Amaya is going to be in Charlotte. So you've got Jacob Amaya, you've got Wilmer Defoe, you got Michael Chavis. Who else is there? There's like all these just all
Yeah.
these random guys
Where
that have just kind of
where is Braden Shoemake?
I am almost positive that he's got a back injury,
Okay.
I think that's where he is. I think he's been injured from a while. Was it that or was it his elbow? Might have been his elbow.
Yeah, I mean, I know he hasn't been around, but
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like I'm fine with that because I don't know where they're going to force him into a lineup, and I would rather see Michael Chavis. I would rather see Wilmer Defoe than seeing Braden Shoemake.
right. Yeah, I don't think we
I
ever
mean,
see Braden Shoemake again, but
I don't think so.
he's still on the 40 though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Weird.
that's that same guy. Yep. Signed him for
Yeah.
probably in like May or so, like late May, I think, early
Yeah.
June. Um and like there was also a couple of pickups for the Barons last week. They picked up Kanan Smith and Jigba,
Yeah.
and then Nick Podkol, who was with the Phillies, with the Iron Pigs earlier this year, and he's okay. He plays a nice third base,
Yeah,
and
they needed some reinforcements in
yeah,
Birmingham.
yeah. So I mean, at least there's like some
Mhm.
with the injuries that they had and like the promotions that they had, it makes sense to move some of those guys up. So this was actually addressed earlier today, Alec. Caro's back is expected to keep him out a little bit longer than expected. So they're saying that they don't think that Caro will probably get a call up, but we shall see.
Did you see this from Trey about James Fegan?
Da, da, da,
Because
da.
I did not see that. Like that he expects Amaya here and Ramos to go back because they want Ramos to get every day at bats. What's stopping them from giving him every day at bats in Chicago?
Jacob Amaya, I guess.
Miguel
Yeah, I don't
Vargas,
know.
like just play him at third every day.
Yeah,
He
and
can have every day at bats here.
this is something that I definitely wanted to talk about was the Miguel Vargas thing. It was brought up that a lot of people, and we talked about, on Twitter, we talked about this the other day. Somebody said that they wanted Amaya sent down and Ramos to come up, and your reply was, I don't think it really matters, and I'm pretty much of the same thing. At this point of the season, it really doesn't matter. But like the point that I had was that yes, I wouldn't mind seeing Ramos up because he's been putting up some really nice numbers in AAA. But what did Vargas do in AAA? Murdered the baseball. So I will say I do think that it looks a little bit like Miguel Vargas is a little bit lost at this particular point. His plate discipline is still good, but the hits have not been coming.
Yeah, I wonder if it could kind of be like Corey Lee, where this is like a completely lost season, but he can show something like next year, like after he has the full off season and he's back. Because I mean, my guess is he's part of the 2025 White Sox in some capacity. I have no idea where you play him, right? But I'm pretty sure he's on the team for next year. So, but I mean, at this point, does it make sense to send him anywhere to Charlotte? Does it like give him days off, like, or do you just keep throwing him out there and watching him flail away?
That's exactly what I'm saying at this point. It wouldn't necessarily, maybe it gives him some confidence back and he can get his mojo going again, because I mean he hit something like 348 or something at AAA. I mean, granted it is the PCL,
Yeah, right.
so that
Well,
would
but
help
he's
things, but
yeah, and that helps you like hit the ball over the fence, but it doesn't really like make you have 400 on base percentages consistently, which is what
yeah,
he's done.
yeah. Um yeah, Lenin Sosa. I mean, he had a nice hit yesterday. He hasn't been phenomenal. His defense has been okay. I don't know.
Yeah, this
I'm
whole
not
team
ready
is
to.
just awful. Like they're so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I mean, even like Luis Roberts turned it on a little bit, and they need it if they expect to trade him this winter. They need him to be pretty good. Um, but other than that, man, they're playing out the string for sure. And they're gonna get this record because they might win 5 more times, 6 more times. I mean, I just
Sounds about
like
accurate.
somebody. I think I saw
Fortunately,
today what they need to go like 12 and something like crazy, like 12 and 20 or something. Like they can't do that.
There's no shot. No
They
way.
they can't do that. Like, I don't know if they could go 12-50. Like if they had six, whatever, like 62 left. Like,
Yeah.
no way.
No. Nope. Absolutely not. Um, yeah, I said the same thing earlier, Clutch. Andrew Vaughn is back. He's on his way to a batting title currently. I don't know. He had a RBI single here just a little bit ago.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, he's back in.
God.
Yeah, and I agree, Trey. Martin does look good. We were talking about this pre-stream here. He's turned into quite the pitcher here with the addition of that nasty change, and the curveball and slider still being nasty, and he's looking good. It's nice.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Kevin Gossman transformation in San Francisco when Brian Bannister was there, and then Gossman left and got a pretty good contract from Toronto. So you don't have to worry about
Yeah,
that with Davis Martin because I think he has like 5 years of control still. But
yeah. Well, I mean, what the TJ sent him back like a year,
a year, yeah.
but I
So
don't
maybe it's
know.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So as mentioned on Saturday, we had the Hagen Smith experience for the first time. It's slated to be three inning Saturday starts along the lines of Noah Schultz last year in Kannapolis at the end of the year. So I'm just going to go. I'll go ahead and chop this all up for everybody's viewing pleasure here. If you are listening to this in stream form, know that we do this every week. Currently on Mondays due to football season. So we do the video thing here on YouTube and on twitch.tv/FutureSox. So hop on and say hello. But on Saturday, we had the Hagen Smith start, and things went real well. You can see the stat line on the video here. 3 innings pitched, no runs, 2 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts, 26 of 38 pitches, 4 strikes. Very good. Very good. That's pretty much the takeaway from this, is that he is nasty as advertised.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is fifth overall pick with an $8 million record setting bonus. This is why I don't expect him to have too much trouble in his 3 starts. He goes 9 innings. He'll be right around 100. There's a question from Vince, like asking if there's any chance that he
Hit
starts
by
next year
pitch.
in Birmingham. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he starts in Birmingham next year. So
I mean, if he just lays waste to these guys, which I'm expecting, that seems like a fair thing. I mean, that it's pretty much exactly what was done with guy from Wake Forest.
what for who?
Trying to think. Trying to think who it was. The Reds.
Rhett
Rhett
Lauder.
Lauder.
Yeah, Rhett
Yeah.
Lauder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much exactly what they did with him, and I wouldn't, be surprised if that's exactly what happens with Smith.
Where you go like very like pretty limited in high A and then start in double. Yeah, I could see that.
Yep.
I think the real question then is like whether you leave Noah Schultz in the same rotation or whether he goes to Charlotte to start the year. I don't know. But I do think like while we both think the White Sox are going to be bad next year again, like I do think Schultz and Smith can both debut next year. Just because how many minor league innings are necessary? Like if these guys are both shoving in the high minors, like regardless of how bad the big league team is, like you'll probably see them. I would think, anyways.
Yeah. I don't see. It's kind of one of those things.
That's a scary one. Jeez.
You can imagine seeing that thing coming at your face. Yeah. I don't. It's with pitchers. Like we've had this conversation. That is there necessarily such a thing as a pitching prospect? Either you can get guys out or you can't. And once you show that you can get out guys consistently, might as well just move him up. And I think it's way different than hitting
Yeah.
in that aspect where, I'd like to see a guy get, a fairly significant amount of at bats at each level, unless it's like, guys hitting
Yeah.
like 450 for like multiple weeks.
Well, I wouldn't be stunned if, like, like your team next year has some guys from this year, part of your Garrett Crochet return. You're kind of, pretty bad again. But, like, if you think like Colson and Caro are part of the future and like you make some deadline trades and then you see Noah Schultz and Smith in the second half with like the intention of those guys being like cogs in your 26 rotation. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And I then we have to start, if you do end up getting these guys locked in, say Crochet still manages to be here and sticks for a couple more years, you go with Schultz, Hagen Smith, and Garrett Crochet in your
Yeah.
rotation. I mean, that's the other two guys that are going to be in the starting rotation. Your regular two guys. I would assume that you would have to have them be right-handed.
You have like Drew Thorpe and Davis Martin. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I like then you have to start figuring out like what do you think. What do you plan on doing with your roster? Because if that's your set rotation, I mean, other than having like a couple of guys who are next man up for injury replacements and stuff like that, um, it's way too much pitching in the system right now.
Yep.
I
And,
mean,
and
you have
inevitably you have to trade some of it for hitters, but you have to like trade for good hitters.
yeah, yeah. Here we go. Clutch says Sox want to be the Royals, so let's say going to go from worst team to the AL
No.
Central champs in 1
How do
year.
you get me a Bobby Witt Jr.?
Yes, that's what we need. That's the part that we're missing here. Once we figure that out, then we're good to
Yeah, I
go.
mean, if you have a Bobby Witt Jr., everything else gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. We're still waiting on that.
Which is
But
which is why, like going all the way back to 2019 and striking out, right? It's why Bryce Harper made so much sense because, like when you have a superstar, everything's easier. Like it just is, Like they've been having the same talk like across town with the Cubs this year, where like Jed Hoyer built a team of like a bunch of decent players that had to hit like 90th percentile marks. Like, well, if you just like spend a little bit of that money on one absolute stud, like that guy can carry you for 2 weeks. It's just so underrated. And there's owners that like see like, oh, it's 350 million. Like, what's it going to be like on the back end? And who cares? Like, like it's awesome.
yeah. This is a fun question. James, if the Sox had the number 2 overall in 19, would they have taken Witt or Vaughn?
I think they would have taken Witt. Yeah,
I would hope so.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I think they would have. But like, so I look back on that because like I had heard some pushback from buddies just like, oh, they lost 100, they're going to lose 100, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, honestly, like I wish they would have lost 100 a couple times they didn't lose 100, right? Like those times when you're like lose 91 games and have the 7th pick in the draft, like
Yep.
I'd much rather lose 105 and pick first and get a stud, right? So I looked back on that year. The Sox were 62 and 100 when they had the 3rd pick and got Vaughn. The Royals lost like 105 games and the Orioles lost like 115. So
Yeah.
like the Sox kind of did their part. It's tough to be that bad, because I thought like, oh, they should have like worked harder to be worse, but it's tough. Like the Royals lost 105 games.
Yeah, it's that old thing, It's like if you're going to be if the season's going to suck anyway,
Yeah.
if you're going to be bad, be the best at being bad.
Right.
Let's
Well,
let's go.
Well, that's where like under the old rules, like right now, like I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, oh, they have the number 1 pick in the draft locked in. Okay, that's fine. Like,
Ethan
bring
Holiday.
bring me Ethan
Awesome.
Holiday. Bring me Ethan
Yeah.
Holiday. Like they suck. Keep losing. Who cares? Like, but with the lottery system, it's a yeek. Like, there's like nothing to show for how awful they are. Yeah, Elias was the king at it, but he better hope that he doesn't go down in the wild card round again because he decided to trade for bad pitching instead of good pitching. So.
And we get the number 10 pick for 127 losses.
Yep, sure do. You're gonna get that 10 pick and like it.
Man, and like the thing is, I am so dejected by the fact that we are getting the 10th pick. And there's no shot we're getting the 11th. We are definitely getting the 10th pick.
Well, they have the 10th. Yeah.
But I am so just like so upset the fact that these rules just happen to change right before right before we are putting up record-breaking numbers here, that I haven't even bothered to look at like the projected.
I haven't looked at like Tankathon at all, and I'm usually all over it or whatever,
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I kind of know some of the guys that are available. Obviously, I know Ethan Holiday, and I've seen a couple of the other guys.
From Texas A&M. There's some bats.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like at this point, like what you hope you can get another pick and then play it the way the Nationals did, or like push a guy down to you, right? Like if you can get a comp pick somehow and pick 10th, maybe you can get the 5th best player in the class. And then you're picking one in every round after that. So look, like they should be expected to get a good player at 10. But, I'd rather pick top 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have not 100% confidence in Shirley and company, but I do have a higher than I had previous to Shirley, like comfortability factor in that they're going to get somebody and that the talent evaluation is going to be good. So there is that. But, like you said, you would rather be picking top 3 than picking number 10. That is for sure. Yeah, Trey says, I've not checked that website once all year. Yeah, there's literally zero reason to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Our buddy Joe Doyle posted a picture of the odds of the number 1 pick, and it showed the White Sox just locked
at
with
10. Yeah.
number 10, and I was just like, oh man, this feels so awful.
Yeah. Yeah. Marlins. I don't know. It'll be something wacky. It's been a little bit wacky the first 2 times. Like the Pirates got 1, and I think they were like projected bottom 5, but not 1. And then Cleveland came all the way up from like 13. So watch the Cubs get it.
like
With like the 11th worst record in the league or something, and they climb up.
Yeah, when the Guardians got it, I was just like, of course they did. Of course they did.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up from a little while ago that we missed this while we were riffing on some of that stuff. The focus is on Hagen for now, but where did that Brizuela guy come from?
Yeah.
2022
Marco
international class. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and
he looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's not bad. His first inning was obviously less than ideal. Gave up 6 runs in his first inning. But since then, I think he's given up. Since the first inning, I think he's given up 8 runs.
Yeah.
In close to 40 innings.
Yeah.
So not bad at all.
Kind of a large man too.
Yeah, he's pretty big. He throws gas, and he's got a nasty slider, and got a pretty nice changeup as well. So yeah, it's looked pretty good.
The Sox have done okay, like with pitching on the international side. It's just like none of those guys are ever highly regarded because they're just so cheap, Like it's just like Houston made a killing doing that. Like all of like their entire rotation, like Framber Valdez signed for like $200K, like nobody thought. But then these guys just like get better. It's actually pretty interesting. Like you should just sign like a bunch of Dominican pitching every year.
I mean, we've talked about this before. Like I'm all for casting a wide net. I mean, obviously, everybody is hunting for that number 1, number 2 top guy in a position in the international market, but there's only 1 or 2 of those guys at every position. So, if you don't have that, start start throwing that net out there, you
Well,
know?
so that's the issue with their classes is that they don't have the top end guy, but then they also don't like really have depth either, you know? So it's like kind of weird that like if you're not going to sign a Dominican teenager for $5 million, then give me 30 players in every class, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's just and they do neither. So,
See, I'd say that the only issue with signing 30 guys a class, like the Red Sox and the Indians and clubs like that, the A's, I believe, that do things like that. The issue is that the White Sox like to hold on to their guys through their entire rookie contract before they finally let them go, as opposed to the other teams that don't have a problem if a guy's not doing anything,
yeah.
they're gone within a year or
Well,
two.
the Sox have done it lately with international guys. Like they've gotten rid of the bad ones. I think like the bigger issue for the strategy that I would prefer is like they should have two DSL teams. But you're going to need new facilities then. It like brings on a whole nother can
Oh,
because they don't
uh,
because I don't think the DSL players count towards whatever the number is now. Is it 150
they do
now? It's like
not.
something
It's only
crazy.
state size. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's only
exactly.
stateside.
So
Yep.
so if you have two DSL teams, like you could have 50 more players if you want in your
Yep.
system.
I don't know if you caught this or not, but Paul Janisch was on, I think, White Sox Weekly, I think 2 weeks ago. And he said that they are building a new DSL facility. So that is
That's good.
exciting. When that's going to start construction and when it'll be done, that he did not clarify.
Well, and I wonder where it is because they have one of the older ones. It's in like Boca Chica, I believe.
Boca Chica. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, and I think they'll have a new scouting director to look over it. So
Yeah, I am almost 100% certain at this point that that it's on its way. You know,
interesting.
um,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and listen. I've always like found well, always is crazy, right? But this year so far, like I've found Paul Janisch to be like interesting and informative. I don't know like if he knows how to develop baseball players. Like I have no idea, but his like ideas make sense. So I
yeah,
don't know if that's like he was a big leaguer, like he was at Rice for a long time, and those positions on college staff are very much like about development now. So it's like not that different. But
yeah.
I
It
think
was on
but I think
Chuck.
Janisch is interesting.
Yeah, it was on the Chuck Fest
Was on
on
the Chuck podcast.
the Chuck Cast. Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of Mr. Paul Janisch, he stepped to the mic today in the locker room and gave a little bit of insight on our friend Colson Montgomery. I'll go ahead and bring that up.
Defense that he's played this year, despite us maybe perceiving him struggling offensively. He's played very good defensive shortstop, which, as we can all agree, at some point we're going to ask him to come to Chicago and play the shortstop position. That's a big deal. So yeah, he's despite getting 5 hits in the last couple of days, he on the year he struggled a little bit offensively. But talking to Colson, and as I'm sure some of you guys have, he's still very open about talking about the fact that he hasn't performed as well as he knows he can, and he's still very intent on being a very good major league player, which obviously we are expecting that and fully supportive of him still at this point and all that. So I give him a lot of credit for how he's handled the first time that he's ever struggled, and hopefully this will be the part of the process and him becoming completely ready.
So we had this conversation off air, but let's go ahead and have that conversation on air now. So the White Sox apparently seem pretty comfortable with Colson Montgomery sticking at shortstop.
They do, and I think like if he sticks at shortstop, I think it like changes I guess like the future a little bit, right? Cuz like I kind of feel like we've talked about this in the past like if he's not like a superstar, right? Like if he's just whatever. What did we say, right? Like he struggles at the plate where he hits like 250, but he still has like a pretty good eye but like lots of power. If he can play shortstop, like that's a really good player. If he has to play third, not so much, right? So I mean, this is the team that like left Tim Anderson at shortstop for a very long time, and it's obviously a different front office, right? But the White Sox have a history of like not really caring that much about defense. So my point was like always like Colson Montgomery's playing shortstop. Now does that mean other teams would play him at shortstop or that he stays there forever? Like, no, probably not. But he's playing shortstop for the Chicago White Sox, like probably next year.
Yeah, that was always kind of my thought when they started talking about retooling the team and kind of working towards guys that were fundamentally, solid plus glove guys. I knew that Colson wasn't going to be that guy right away. So, like, what did that mean for Colson at shortstop? Did it mean he was going to stick there? I obviously I think that we're starting to find out our answer, and he's played fairly decent at shortstop in Charlotte this year. So,
yeah, and I wonder how much of the defensive thing was like nonsense. Just like Getz thought like the quickest way to be like not awful was to be good defensively, and boy was he wrong. But like, like I just wonder how much they care. But I mean, look, they have kind of like they play Dominic Fletcher like every day in right field because he's awesome defensively, whereas like Pedro would play Gavin Sheets in right field. Like so there are all these like little things where so like I think he cares about it, but it's not going to stop them from trying to like maximize their asset, and the way to do that is by playing him at shortstop.
yeah, no, for sure. Now, I mean, obviously the question's going to come in, what the bat's going to do and when they're comfortable bringing him up and see what he can do. And I've said this to you is that there's kind of things about Colson's game this year that are kind of, at least to me, reminiscent of Yoan Moncada, where he's being way passive at the plate and it's costing him at bats. And, obviously that's probably, it's early in his career to start calling him out for, watching pitches, but, that's something that obviously is going to have to be improved upon for him to bring his numbers up,
Yeah, because the walk rate is like still good, but the strikeout rate has gone way, way up in Charlotte. I know he's struggled with like the ABS system for sure. He's taken a lot of pitches that have been strikes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. After hearing Giannis, after hearing Getz last week, it just doesn't seem like they're as concerned as like maybe fans are. And it's not like prospect publications seem that concerned either. Like he's still top 40 pretty much everywhere, nobody's like knocked him off the list. Like nobody's really put him at the back half. So yeah, I think, and I wonder like how soon next year, like if it, if the rest of the year kind of goes like it does, like I'd be a little surprised if he's the starting shortstop on opening day. But I think it's quickly after that, with maybe like Nicky Lopez at short or something, like whatever. Like Jacob Amaya, 2025 White Sox shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, who really knows? Could be for the for opening day. Be kind of, I wouldn't feel good about it. I mean, I'd rather see Wilmer Defoe there than Jacob Amaya for certain. Yeah, I don't know. That's
maybe it's Brooks Baldwin.
That's possible. Obviously the bat has slowed down for him, but the defense has looked pretty good, and this is kind of this is kind of what happens when you come to the major leagues is that they find the holes in your swing and they exploit them, and then it's up to you to make the adjustments to figure that out. And we wait to see whether Brooks Baldwin can do that.
And it's just hard when everybody's awful.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got no protection in the lineup and the pitchers aren't afraid of anybody, they're just going to abuse you as much as they can.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the theme for this year for the White Sox is that literally everybody in the lineup's just getting abused over and over and over again. So Davis Martin ends up going 5 innings, gives up 7 hits and 1 earned run and 1 walk with 4 Ks.
Yeah, sounds about right. Davis Martin's pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually, I'd actually say that the strikeouts are even low for him. I'm actually surprised that it wasn't a couple more, especially against the Tigers team. But, they've started, kind of turning their roster over as well. And
Javi Baez today went on IR, I saw. he's probably done.
Yeesh. I can't. When that
They,
contract happened,
yeah,
when it happened, I was like, man, that's a terrible deal. And boy, was I right. Holy cow, has that been just a colossal train wreck?
yeah, it's not good. Some of the interesting deals, like from this offseason too, where like all the Boris guys signed late and struggled, but now I think they're all going to opt out and get paid again. You know, Bellinger, Chapman, Snell. Snell's like going to go to market unencumbered with no qualifying offer. He's going to get paid.
Yeah, he definitely is. And he's like the difference between him and the hitters that started off really, really slow for quite a while.
Yeah.
He didn't, I mean, he had a couple of starts to start off the year were a little bit slow, but since then, obviously, he's been very good.
Vince, that's like one of the lines of the century. I love it. That's good. Yeah.
There's buyer's remorse and there's Baez remorse. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Tell you what, man, like this is the second time I've brought up the Cubs on a White Sox podcast, but like they got it right with their core not bringing those guys back. They took a lot of heat for that too. It was like,
Yes,
how could you break up this team? And it's like, you know what? The one that got away truly is probably Schwarber, but I mean, like he was terrible when they let him go, and then he made some changes, and now he is what he is, right? But like Chris Bryant had no interest in being in the spotlight. He goes off to Colorado to retire, basically. And Anthony Rizzo has his back issues, like still a decent player,
and concussion issues as well,
you know,
that
and
they
it's
didn't
just
even
hurt
know
a
he had.
lot. And Baez is just terrible, you know, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. Would you trade Andrew Benintendi for Chris Bryant?
With our track history with health concerns, can't say that I would. I mean,
You just wait out the Benintendi years, like yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if I'd go that far. I mean, like I would take a hit on the return for Benintendi, just to turn that roster bit over.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd want to, even if the contracts were canceled out. I feel like Bryant is just never going to be healthy again, unfortunately.
That's what it
you
seems
know,
like.
yeah, and we're going on what, like 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row where he's been nothing but injured.
Like what, like $168 million to like live in Denver?
Ish.
Yeah, it sounds, I could do that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a great place to live if you're not hanging out downtown. You know,
Right,
like
yeah.
you live just outside in a nice area where you can build yourself a nice log cabinish looking thing. You know,
Right. They're like, you could have $168 million, but you have to live like outside of Denver. I'd be like, oh, okay, twist my arm.
oh, life is rough.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to answer this question here for you. Is Brizuela on the top 30 radar?
So he's going to be on the just missed. I think it was like kind of a late arrival. Like we didn't really discuss him, but I mean, sure. There's a lot of guys on the like radar in like the 25 to 30 range, I would say.
Yeah, I almost put him on my top 30. I almost put him on. I ended up putting Vail on instead, just because he had more starts. And, you know, as he's gotten to advanced day, you know, he just ended up having that an injury where he was out for like 2 weeks or whatever, and then he just threw in the Hagen Smith game and threw 2 innings of.
Did you have an answer on him throwing relief innings? Like
I think the reason for it was that when he came back from that injury, I think that they just wanted to get him some innings and get him out there.
Yeah, instead of starter workload.
And also they had run out of pitching. Because if you noticed also on that line score, they had Bryce Willett's pitch.
Yeah.
Because they still had the Sunday game, and because Aberdeen had just, like, not necessarily, like, scored so many runs on the dash pitching that they had to use all their pitching, but they took so many pitches that the dash had to use their pitching a lot in the last week. So they just didn't have that many guys available. They needed to have pitchers available for Sunday as well. So. So that's my guess. I did not ask. I will ask though. They'll be home this week. So Andrew should be able to scope that out if he doesn't end up popping back into the rotation this week. We'll see. So
Be very interesting. We know who's going.
yeah.
We know who's going Saturday at least.
Yes, we know who's going on Saturdays in both Birmingham and Winston-Salem, which, it's we didn't even talk about Noah Schultz at all. He gave up 2 runs. Both of them were unearned on two errors. But other than that, he looked fantastic.
Looked very Noah Schultzy. Yes,
He really did. Yeah, people did not have fun against him, and I had fun watching it.
Yeah, and it's not like he's just like mowing everybody down, but like nobody hits him
this year, despite
Where's this thing? Hold on one second here. There we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Paul Janisch returns.
Yes, Janisch returns.
Yeah, but no, I think there were like some more like interesting performances. Like I know we were like just like pretty down on Peyton Pallette like as a starter. But this relief transition has been crazy. He's like awesome.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I'm not entirely sure. And I had a conversation with Andrew Murphy, their play-by-play guy, about Paulette and like what exactly made it possible for him to do what he's doing, like whether it was an uptick in stuff, whether it was a mental thing, whether it was a physical thing. And he said, I've never gotten a complete answer on what it is that like made it so he's just dominant in the relief role. He says he just hopped into that role and he owned it. And this is the results that we're seeing out of it,
Yeah, and I mean, he just like doesn't command the fastball as a starter. So you can't get to like any of your other stuff. Like I wonder if that's the difference. Like he's just the fastball's a little bit better, so he's like not afraid of throwing it. I don't know. But
yeah.
I mean, if he's gonna stay in a relief role, I mean, he could move pretty quick, honestly. I mean, he's at Birmingham now. There's no reason to really hold back. I'm wondering if he's a Arizona Fall League candidate. I know we haven't really dug around much for like the Arizona Fall League. It's like one of the next like interesting things. I know Grant Taylor is scheduled to be there, which should be really interesting. Like if he's healthy, he's, starting pitcher 3, like in this org behind 2 studs, and he's not far behind him, like in my opinion, from what I watched this year. I think you and I both talked off air, like Sean Burke makes sense. I don't have that confirmed, but I mean, just, the amount of innings he's missed, he needs a 40-man spot. Like he's been pretty good. So if it's, Taylor and Burke, that wouldn't be surprising. But I mean, like, I feel like a guy like Pallette makes some sense too, and like a lot of times it's guys that are AA or higher for AFL, which could explain like the promotion too. So like I always kind of look at late season promotions for AFL guys. So we'll see. That should be out soon though. I feel like we know like rosters by now or pretty soon.
Yeah. So last week they announced the schedule, and I haven't looked at it, but from what I understand is that the off days have changed a little bit, and also like the schedule, like when they play games, has changed a little bit this year. And per my understanding, we were supposed to find out at the end of this week what the fall league rosters were, but I haven't seen
Interesting.
it yet. So
I think there's a rule that they have to send position players.
That was going to be my next question.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have any ideas. Riku Nishida? Let's get nuts. You're going to fly there if he's there. You're going to go hang out in Arizona.
I would tune in anyway. But if I didn't do what I always do, I would make sure that I tuned in to watch what this little crazy guy is doing,
Yeah.
Like he's so much fun. Yeah,
so
I would absolutely watch.
Like if they truly believe that Jacob Gonzalez has turned some sort of corner, can you risk it? Like, can you send him? Is that too much baseball? Like, I don't.
That's what I'm thinking.
I
They
don't
said it would
think
be
that,
too much.
I don't think they send Caro or Montgomery. So then at that point, you're sending non-prospects, kind of,
Yeah, that was going to be the question. Is there somebody that you can think of on the position side that showed up late that they would possibly need to see something more from? Is there, I had thought possibly because Michael Turner had shared so much time with Caro at the beginning of the year and didn't catch a lot, that possibly they send him to Arizona to catch
Yeah, I can see that.
specifically. But you sent Jacob Burke there last year.
Yeah, it
And
was rough. Yeah, I mean, because Caro went last year too, right?
yeah, let's see, Colson was there. No,
Caro
Colson
and
and Ramos.
but Caro's
Oh,
gone before.
yeah. I think he went the year before last,
Yeah,
so
okay.
2023.
I mean, do you see a DJ Gladney possibly?
That's possible, but he hasn't. I mean, he just got promoted to Double A, and he's actually been hitting pretty well. That's not a bad call. I could see that.
Wilfred
Wilfred
Veras
Veras would be
potentially.
another one that you could possibly look at. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure if they could send 7 pitchers, they would.
Yeah, I mean, I've been tossing around a couple of names trying to figure out who they might send on the positional side, and it's not an easy one. Like last year, I felt like it was easier to say who would go because you had Montgomery and Ramos both had injuries.
Yeah, that was easy.
So it made sense.
Right.
But this year, trying to think of somebody that you'd really want to send over there is like usually it's either a guy who's been injured and you need to get more at bats, you send him, or it's a guy that you're almost out on, but you're giving him one last chance to check him out and see what his deal is. And that part of the roster I have not, I've not gone through in my head to see if there's somebody that I think that fits that,
Well, a lot of times it's pitchers that need 40-man protection in December that you're not sure on. I remember the year that the White Sox sent Tanner Banks, and I was like, oh, well, they must like Tanner Banks more than I thought they did. And then the next year he's that December he's added to the roster, and now he's a useful bullpen piece in the majors, So
yeah, now we got William Bergoya. So he's nice glove.
So that's what I'm wondering is just how many are there multiple relievers that they just want to send just because?
Yeah, that's
an Eric. Do you send an Eric Adler just to kind of get his prospect status? Kind of,
he's an interesting one because I feel like he should pitch more in Birmingham than he has.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't see him nearly enough. And I feel like he should pitch more. And I don't know if there's an underlying health reason for that or whatever. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, because he's actually a relief prospect.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's a guy, that they enjoy. So yeah, I'll poke around and see if I can't figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident on Taylor. But the rest, I don't know.
That'll be find out.
I just want to see that guy pitch again.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, looking forward to that. Just to see him out on the mound and see what he can do.
Can you imagine if they? I don't think they could do it because of the amount of innings he missed. I think he's clearly going to Winston, but if he was in the rotation with Schultz and Smith in Double A, that would
be fun.
It would be. Yeah, he's probably got. He probably has to go to Winston though. I would think.
Yeah, I don't think that they'd want to send him directly to Double A. If he had started in Winston, we had thought possibly it might happen in the beginning, then I could see it. But because he pitched in Canny, I don't think that they would skip straight to Double A.
He is the type of guy though that I think some people may have missed a little bit. That if he goes he could go to the Arizona Fall League and be the best pitcher there. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
100%.
and then all of a sudden, he's like knocking on the door of all these top 100 lists because people are like, "Oh, this Grant Taylor's awesome!" Like, where we already kind of know that, have him up at 5. I think like Jim Callis has him kind of high too.
Yeah, that's I was
But
gonna
I just
say is
think
that
there's some
Jim
people
Callis
that
was
just
high
like
on him.
didn't get a chance to see how nasty he is because he was
Yeah.
pitching in Kannapolis, and like that was just he should probably have skipped that level. But I mean, it's tough to know.
Yeah, if you guys didn't get to watch any of the Grant Taylor starts, go ahead and head over to FutureSox on Twitter /X and go ahead and sign up. Search up Grant Taylor from FutureSox and check out the check out those starts. They're pretty nasty. You have anything else pressing this week?
No, I guess the only like potentially interesting thing is just when the rotation spot comes back around, like whether they're lame and they start like Chad Cool or whether we get like another prospect. Like I guess the easy call would be Nastrini, like we've talked about, right? Like, but I don't think they'd go to Iriarte. Adams is like probably not ready, right? So
No, I think he's going to start this week
there
on
though for Charlotte, right?
Friday or whatever.
So
Yeah,
my guess
but
is it's going to be Nastrini, or they'll just do something dumb that nobody cares about and just have a bullpen game or have Tukey Toussaint's or something.
Tukey.
But it does
Everybody
seem
loves
like
Tukey.
Nastrini has done enough, like he's gone down, fixed some things they wanted him to fix. He switches places with Kai Bush. Like I think that probably makes sense.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I'm all for seeing Nastrini again after he made those adjustments and how he's looked. I'm kind of interested to see how it transfers. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going with dumb.
What a way to
Yeah,
end it. That's a great way
fair.
to end the podcast.
All right. So you good for this week, James?
I am all good.
All right. So next week is Labor Day on Monday. So we will not be on the air unless something absolutely ludicrous comes up. We will probably just
we're gonna take off
skip
next week. I might if we can get a guest, we'll record something and post it on the feed, but we won't be live.
Fair enough. Yeah, no doubt, right? Trey says time to watch the Pen blow another Martin start, and we are well on our way. It is 2-2. But if you are listening to this in podcast form, which you can find anywhere you find your podcasts, know that on Monday nights we are doing this thing on YouTube and on Twitch, twitch.tv/FutureSox. If you are not subscribed to us on Twitter, if you want to see White Sox highlights and get all of our written content sent to you, turn on that little notification there on Twitter and you will get all of our tweets and content. FutureSox.net, you can find all of our written content, which will be showcasing our top 30 re-rank shortly. What day is that?
Yeah, couple days probably. Yeah.
All right, couple days. And then the Just Missed will be coming out a couple weeks probably after that, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to release it after this time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what you are looking forward to. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at James Fox 917. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming and spending your time with us on this Monday night. And we will catch up with you guys in 2 weeks. You guys have a great night. We appreciate you. Thanks. Bye.